It's kind of whenever, I guess, the fungus took us over.
Mushrooms are best served fresh, which is why getting it from farm to table as quick as possible is the best thing to do. Thing is, somebody has to grow them, and that's what we really want to do, is bring that stuff to the community. So they spend about 2 weeks on the shelf, and they spend about 2 weeks in the fruiting chamber, give or take. Some stuff can be as fast as a week. It's kind of amazing how fast mushrooms can grow. What we're doing in here is letting them colonize. So this is kind of like the middle of the process you're looking at. What we're doing inside of a laboratory in a sterile room is taking a little scoop of each one of these and putting it in those bags over there. And then we shake the bags up, and then you got hundreds of inoculation points spread out across the entire bag. So if you got a couple hundred of these per scoop, it's going to end up getting circulated around the bag once we inoculate it. A lot of times, Ben and I are so familiar with these mushrooms, we could look at just the mycelium on the inside of the bag and tell you what's what without even seeing fruit in it.
That's kind of what I enjoy a lot about the markets, is that we get to teach a lot of people about these new things that they're not familiar with. Because usually people are like, oh no, that looks gross. And then it's like, no, go and try this, it's completely different. And they really enjoy the mushrooms after that.
Talk about this all the time, but it's, you Google things to do in Savannah. That's one of the top 5 things to do in Savannah is go to the Forsyth Farmers Market. We've got this space humidity and climate controlled. So the reason for that is when mushrooms are fruiting, the mycelium itself feels like it's in danger. So it's going to produce a mushroom to release spores to go on to the next generation. And to have the humidity and climate the way we do, we've got a device out there that's called a pond fogger. So it basically atomizes the water instead of making steam, so it's like a cool mist with a positive pressure fan blowing in there. So that's why we got all this fog coming in now. So we create that high humidity, and then we also have an exhaust fan that's poured over there, pulling all the moisture out, so we have a bunch of high-low humidities. All these back here are going to be called Princess Pearl. It's a oyster mushroom. And then over here, we've got some of the lion's mane. Honestly, our biggest seller at the markets.
Usually whenever we give the person the mushroom, or when they pick something up from the markets, it's in a brown bag already. And that brown bag, we can't take credit for it. We learned this from Gordon Ramsay. The paper bag will help wick away your moisture. Whenever you get the mushrooms bought from the store, if you don't line your cellophane holes back up right.
You gotta think, mushrooms are kind of like when you go to the store, back in the day when you used to see a lobster with its little rubber band on its claw. It's still alive in a way. If there is any kind of contamination, it's gonna outpace the mushrooms, contaminate everything in the bag. So we have to be very preventative. There's a couple things we got going on here right now that help us do that. So this is where we do all the bulk inoculations. Pressure cooking those grains so that it'll be sterile, so that whenever we introduce the mycelium to it, that's going to be the only thing that's colonizing it. So everything we have in here is presumably as clean as it can be, because the air is getting constantly filtered. Working in that sterile environment is critical. And, yeah, especially when it comes to the grains, because if the grains get contaminated and we don't see that, it'll spread to the whole cohort, and that's what these barrels here are for. They got a false bottom with a heating element in it, so it basically just steams the bags for usually let it go for about 15 hours. This is straight mushroom compost. Farmers go bananas for this stuff. We have people come pick it up all the time, and they're just as thrilled as they can be to get their hands on it. Me and my brother Blake, we originally wanted to learn how to grow lion's mane. A few years down the road, we ended up meeting Joseph, and he was kind of interested in the same idea. And he happened to ask the right questions of how to do stuff and how to get started with everything. Ben was in the service industry, and Blake was a personal trainer, and both of them were really interested in nutrition and food and stuff like that. And my background was that I was an ecologist. I was working on Jekyll when I met them, and we all bring something different and unique to the table. Ask Ben a question. He needs to talk to you.
No, but we're looking to build a facility in the near future to where we could triple or even quadruple our workspace.
It's a lot about growing high nutrient dense foods. The philosophy of why we want to put out this good quality food for people.